Hello, fellow fantasy sports fans. Welcome to MFSN, the Hub's fantasy football strategy show. Every Thursday at 4:30 p.m. Eastern, 1:30 p.m. Pacific. I'm here as always. I'm Dr. Dan Renner. I'm here as always with only Ross the Boss.
It's Thursday. It's game day. I'm excited. I hope you're excited. Started NFL tonight. The big question, Dr. Dan Ratner, is Travis Kelce. Is he playing? Is he going to see the field? Will he give it a try? What do you think?
Listen.
You're a doctor. You know what he did.
I mean, what's the latest? Did they say he's a game time decision? I'm not as fully up to speed on it because
so basically he's questionable and he's going to give it a try.
Okay, then yes, he's definitely going to. I mean, a guy like Travis Kelce, if he's even remotely possible to be on the field, he totally will be.
Yeah, I agree. I think he's a guy that never gets hurt. He wants to play. They're getting their rings. It's a big night in Kansas City. They're the world champions.
He's not going to miss it. You might find that he's used as a decoy though. You know, a lot more than you'd expect. But I don't even think that's going to happen.
Yeah, I mean they're downplaying the injury. It's not as bad as they're saying. They say hyperextension knee. Now they're saying it's just a little sore, but who knows? But I agree with you. I think he'll see the playing field and he'll get some reps. He'll get some reps.
If there's any chance he's going to play, then he will. Yeah. Okay, Chris Atwater is with us. He says, football season, so happy, all caps. Go Saints.
Let's talk about his Saints real quick.
Let's talk about his Saints.
So Derek Carr, I mean, he's been declining every year. I mean, you can't hide that, Chris Atwater. He's not getting better every year. He's getting worse. Everybody's jumping up and down about the Saints. They don't have their leading rusher. He's suspended for 3 games for doing stupid things in discotheques in Vegas. I do like Olave. I think Thomas. Do you remember the golden days when Thomas was the number 1 pick in fantasy football in 2000? Was it 18? Yeah. He was like the number 1 pick.
Maybe even
19. Now he's like a 12th round pick. I mean, he's declined rapidly.
Some people won't touch him.
No. Casey Scheinfeld, who's not here today, he won't even touch him. So I think the Aints will be better than last year, but people have high hopes. But we'll see. Maybe they can win the division. The division's horrible. With Tampa Bay and Carolina. I mean, those teams are just the worst.
So who are you picking to win that division? I'm just curious.
I'm taking the Falcons. I'm riding high on the Falcons. I like their quarterback with the University of Cincinnati. I like Bijan Robinson. I like their defense. I think the Falcons have a good team. I like their receivers. I really think they can put it together. So I like the Falcons. We'll see what happens. I'm saying Jackson, but I like the Falcons.
I feel like in some ways we just captured the theme of today, which is, we're starting off a new season. And the thing is, we're going to be so wrong about so many things. It's going to be hilarious. It happens every single year. So I wanted to ask you, let's take a guess. What do you think you might be wrong about? Like just hugely wrong.
Well, I'm not telling me, but somebody just told me Niners Baltimore Super Bowl. I laughed in the person's face. I mean, Baltimore they didn't even make the playoffs last year. So how can they go to the Super Bowl? I mean, is Lamar Jackson that big of a difference? I don't think so.
But they have a quality enough team that they could do that. I mean,
but that AFC is stacked. I'm right. AFC has 100%. A lot more. Their teams are a lot more competitive than the NFC this year. There's no way Baltimore is going to the Super Bowl. There's no way.
I would be surprised, but I do think they'll make the playoffs. Okay, Chris Atwater says, yes, Ross the Boss, we will suck, to be quite honest, but there is some room to make noise in a horrible division. First round loss in playoffs is what I'm thinking is the ceiling. That sounds potentially reasonable. We'll have to see what happens. Now, while we're getting into predictions, I wanted to say there's a couple of predictions that I have in my head that I'm like, I'm probably going to be wrong.
Can't wait. What are they? I can't wait.
Well, I mean, for one thing, people are talking about Nick Chubb is going to start catching passes. I don't think that's going to happen. Well, I did think it was going to happen. I drafted as if it was going to happen. I don't think it is. I think he's going to be the same old Nick Chubb. And I also think he's going to start getting dinged up because he doesn't have the protection of another running back. So I'm not as high on him as an example.
I like Ford at backup in Cleveland. I think he's the real deal. So he has a little backup. I think Nick Chubb's going to be the leading rusher in the AFC. I feel he's going to have a great year.
especially in standard leagues. I think.
Yeah, I mean his offensive line is good, top 5.
It will get. I guarantee you will have 2 injuries within this first week.
I hope not. I'm big on Nick Chubb. I'm big on Nick Chubb in fantasy, so I hope he stays healthy. But again, you could say that about any running back. I mean, anybody who gets Valium will get dinged up. It's just part of football. I mean, look at the news out of LA today.
He's been quite durable.
I mean, Cooper Kupp's not playing, and I don't know. I don't know when in LA. We don't even know when he's coming back. There's no word.
Well, I was going to say, how do you value Cooper Kupp?
I don't know. And guess who stayed away from Cooper Kupp in the fantasy drafts?
Oh yes, I didn't want
this guy. I just.
I mean,
you know what? He hasn't played since spring football, so why would I pick him right now?
All right, Chris Atwater says can't go to the Super Bowl without a starting quarterback, and Lamar won't be healthy when the time comes.
I agree. He hasn't been healthy in November in years. I mean, every November he's like hurt. We don't see the guy. We don't hear from the guy. He's invisible. So I agree, Chris Atwater. He's not a guy that's going to be playing in November again this year too. So there you go.
All right, Ricky B says I'm so lost at tight end. Juwan, Chig, or Musgrave. I'm sitting Kincaid this week.
Okay,
that's pretty.
Why are you sitting Kincaid? Kincaid has been. I've been watching preseason with Buffalo. Also. I've been watching preseason with Buffalo, and Kincaid's not playing really tight end. He's playing like a slot, and they're going to use him as a slot receiver. And so, if they do that, which they probably will do, of course, in the regular season, Kincaid can be a big weapon in fantasy. So I would start Kincaid, especially Monday night against the Jets, who can't guard a tight end.
So let me ask you, you often say things like that, like start him on Monday night, to me, it's like, isn't football just football? But maybe it's just that people play bigger under the big light.
It's their prime time. You're watching the only game.
I understand the fun of it, but are you saying
it's the fun of it? It's
okay.
Of course, it's the fun.
You're not saying they will automatically.
No, it's not like Kincaid's like it's Monday night. I'm going to have a great game. No,
but listen, you said Andy Dalton's terrible.
No, Andy Dalton at night. At night, he has something's wrong with his eyes where he can't see at night. I don't know what it is, but at night, for some reason, he can't play football. And you went to the bank many times to take the mortgage out and go to Vegas, and you cash in every time. I mean, you're living right now large.
That's true. I'm living entirely off of what you. I make no other income.
No other income. No idea what you're doing.
So I would say though, if just to follow up with what we're saying to Ricky B, when you're not sure what to do, play the guy with the biggest upside, especially at the position like tight end, where you just need, it's just gravy. I mean, you could play anybody at tight end and get a 0, but except Kelsey. I'm probably Mark Andrews.
Kelsey, I think Andrews will have a good week this week at tight end. Yeah. And I really feel, I said this before, I think Kyle Pitts, I'm totally wrong. Kyle Pitts will have a big year and he'll be like a top 3 pick tight end next year. Like he'll be in the.
I not only can totally see it, but I'm on your side of that. I actually think
I think Kyle Pitts is a great. I drafted him in a bunch of leagues, like 7th, 8th round, and that was a great draft. A great drafts by me with Pitts.
But here's the kind of thing that I feel like going into this year. There's so much hype on this is just one example, but there's so much hype on Jahan Dotson, and I've gotten on board. I'm like, yeah, he sounds like he's going to be an absolute monster.
Yeah,
but in fantasy football, we could find that he just completely tanks.
In fantasy last year, when he's healthy, he's always in the top 20. I mean, he's a top 20 receiver when he's healthy. He scores touchdowns and he gets yards.
He is, but what if he can't stay healthy? Or what if he regresses in some way? Or what if he's?
I don't think he's regressing. He's a very young man. He's okay. He's not regressing for a few years. Yeah. The whole thing is Thurston Howell III is his quarterback, and I just don't know what kind of signature he would have with him. I have no idea.
He's going to be paying attention to Lovey the whole time. He's
Lovey and the professor and Marianne,
trying to get off the island and
the island. That's that's very far away from the mainland. So I read a thing where in Gilligan's Island with that boat they had, it could only go 12 knots. It's only like 4 miles away from where they started from because it was a 3-hour tour. So
they could have swum home.
So people are trying to figure out that Gilligan's Island is not real. They think it's like no kidding. It's a
no
comedy.
Kidding. All right, Chris Atwater has a joke Super Bowl. He did qualify, but he said, "I'm thinking Patriots Cardinals Super Bowl." Now that would be something.
Okay, yeah, I mean,
he then
you
said,
see the Cardinals. See the Cardinals announced their starter. Do you see it when they announced?
I did.
Do you know what the word tanking means? Do you know what the word tanking means in football?
Yeah. Well, when is Kyler Murray supposed to be back?
I don't know. That's $1 million question.
I would say though, in fantasy, you should scoop him up and have him in your injured spot.
Why? Why do you want him? Why do you even want him? I mean, you're not going to start him ever. He doesn't.
Well,
he has no offensive line. He can't. He can't protect himself. How's he going to throw a pass?
His numbers when he started actually looked pretty good. So I'm just saying, it's free. It's
fine.
Free value out there.
I don't know what to answer your question. No one knows. I mean, this guy is just. He should have played baseball. He should have. If he was, maybe he can go back to baseball and he'll make a lot more money playing baseball, not get hurt. And he was a great baseball player. He could have played, he could have done both what Bo Jackson did, but he decided not to.
Could have been a contender. Okay, now while we're talking about quarterbacks, Ross, I want you to see if you can identify who's this. Who's on my shirt?
Well, there's a full head of hair, so
it's gonna surprise you.
Joe Namath.
No. I'm wearing a Bernie Kosar shirt.
Bernie Kosar, University of Miami. I love Bernie Kosar. He was great in college.
Did you play during in fantasy during the days when Bernie was there? I mean, that was a long time ago.
No, I was not in fantasy when Kosar was playing. Not yet.
He wouldn't have been particularly valuable.
A little after though, not too far away.
He wouldn't have been that valuable though because he would have run for -4 yards for the season.
I don't think he would have been drafted in a lot of fantasy leagues. No,
probably not. Okay, Ricky B says I took Cup in the 5th round. Lots of laughter at himself. Listen, I mean it's huge upside, but I just don't believe it's going to happen.
I think that's a perfect round to take him.
It is.
And also Jonathan Taylor, if you take him in the 6th or 7th round, that's a great round to take him. Even though he's not for sure playing the first 4 games, so that's like quarter of the season.
I think Jonathan Taylor is an even better pick in that kind of thing because the only thing that's keeping him from being his full value is he's basically on the PUP list. He's so
right, but the PUP list, yeah.
Cup, we don't know. Is he hurt? We don't know what Stafford.
Well, he's hurt. He can't play. I mean,
well, we know he's hurt, but how badly hurt is
they won't. They will. I mean, he won't. I mean, they won't say. There's no timetable. It's very frustrating.
Chris Atwater said this, and I'm sure it wasn't just to rub it in on me, but he says, I am so glad we don't need a tight end in our redraft league. If you guys watched our draft show, you might have seen that Ross, I think you told me this actually before the show, but then during it, I was like, oh, I'm going to get in on the best tight end available since Kelsey's hurt. Take Mark Andrews. And he's basically just a flex.
Yeah, but Mark Andrews,
he's a solid guy.
He supposed to have a big week this week for Baltimore, so he's going to score a touchdown, so it's not a bad pick.
I mean, you could do a lot better with where
I guess, but it's again, it's not. I'm not going to say the word, but it's a trigger for you. I'm not going to do it, but
I appreciate it.
Yeah,
you know, those triggers are hard. Now, Ricky B says, and it's all going to be our fault now, Ross. But he's all in on Kincaid. I hope it works out for you, Ricky.
Yeah, you can watch Monday night, have a fruit brewskis, and you can watch the Jets Bills. Aaron Rodgers against Dallas. It's going to be a great game on Monday night.
I predict that Kincaid will score a touchdown early in that game, and then you'll just be so glad you played him, and the rest is gravy. Yep. We'll see. Chris Atwater says, where do the Bengals finish? Superfan Ross the Boss.
Oh, that's a great question. So last year, I think the Bengals will lose on Sunday to the Browns. I'm saying it now.
What?
Just because, last year, remember, they lost their first game last year to Pittsburgh. And remember, Burrow had the appendix and he didn't play any preseason. He was very rusty. Well, guess what? He didn't play any this preseason either.
Yep. Lost his appendix again.
And we never played Cleveland well. Do you remember the Halloween game? I was dressed up in costume watching the game, and you were at home laughing because Cleveland beat the Bengals. And you were like, you had champagne and caviar at your house celebrating. I was at home like,
this is not true.
Okay, fine. It's a fantasy, but all things. I like the Browns as a gambler this weekend against the Bengals. I think the Bengals will win 12. I have them winning 12 games, losing 5. I think when they get the ball rolling, I think they're going to be tough to beat with those 2 receivers, and their defense is really good. They improved, and their offensive line is healthy. Healthy is the word. So I think the Bengals will be a good team, and I think that division is the toughest in football.
Yeah, I think the Bengals are going to end up meeting the Chiefs in the AFC Championship
again.
I mean, it actually reminds me of the times where the Browns were actually good against the Broncos, and they just kept showing up in the same matchup. But now we got Bengal, and the Bills should have something to say about it, but they keep not getting there.
Yeah,
So
Bills just didn't improve in the offseason. I mean,
Mhm.
I've been saying this. I mean, Josh Allen, I think he's great. I love the story. Wyoming, nobody wanted him. He was the only D school that wanted him is Wyoming, and now he's like the toast of the league. I love the story, but the problem is Buffalo always finds a way to lose. So there you go.
what do you expect for Stephon Diggs? We know he's been, disgruntled, not happy in that situation, or at least so it seems. What do you expect from him from a
I don't know.
fantasy?
Let's say you were a quarterback and your main receiver was talking bad things about you to the press. Would you be happy to throw him passes during the game? I wouldn't.
No, I
I
definitely
mean,
wouldn't.
I think the guy wants out. I mean, he's been doing it on Twitter and he's been very obvious about it. But I guess he's in. He's going to play.
Well, but here's the thing. I mean, Josh Allen's still going to throw the ball to him, happy or not.
I know,
He's
but
got to do it.
It's just a little. It's just
Plus,
a little X on his back.
Yeah,
saying, "Don't throw me the ball."
yeah. I don't think it's going to matter from a production standpoint.
But Diggs again, he's a top 5 receiver.
The only way it's going to matter is if he tanks his own performance and he just doesn't care. That can happen, and so there is risk there. Chris Atwater says Thurston Howell III laughing at our Gilligan jokes. More of that coming, I promise. Albert Mariquin says, good afternoon, Albert. Great to see you. Give us your comments, your questions. Let's hear it. I mean, this is the big day. So many people have been waiting just for months for this. Football is so big in America. Everybody's just been waiting. Chris Atwater says, do you like Evan Hull or Deion Jackson better while they have opportunities with Taylor out?
Well, the Colts said that it's going to be a 3-person rotation. I don't believe that. I think Deion's going to get he'll get the majority of the carries when the game's over with. He'll have the most carries. I don't know how good he'll be. No idea. I think Hall will get some too, but I have no idea. I mean, it's a coaching decision, and there's a new coach there too. So, you know what? We got to watch and see the first game. I mean, I'm starting Deion Jackson in some of my leagues, some of my deep leagues.
I think
I'm starting him.
I think Deion Jackson is the way to go. Here's the other thing: is that the NFL often they default to the veteran. It's like a hierarchy of veterans league.
Yeah, but the new coach that wants to prove himself and all the
who knows what will
happen.
But
they're playing Jacksonville and they're going to get spanked anyway, so it doesn't really make a difference with who plays for the Colts.
Not only that, but I'm sure you've seen this before, Ross, many times. But you know how like Deion Jackson could start off with the ball, but if he fumbles, you may never hear from him again.
Sit right here. There's a place for you right on the bench, Deion. Sit right there for the rest of the game. Yeah.
And that happens all the time. I remember it was one year I drafted. Oh, who was it? It was a running back for the Houston Texans.
Houston Texans. Okay.
This was like 8 years ago. He fumbled on the first play. I can't remember his name. His names come and go. He fumbled. It was Steve. What was Steve? I forget his last name. I'll look it up. But he fumbled on like the first play of the game. Okay. He was my first round pick. And instantly he was benched.
Sit right here, sir.
This is what you do not want to lose your draft in the first 3 rounds. And I did. I got to look up who that was.
First round pick. Wow. From the Houston, you said the Houston Texans?
Well, he had a great year the year before. Hold on.
I can't wait to hear.
Running back Texans.
Just put running back Texans.
Steve Slayton. You remember Steve Slayton?
No.
You don't even remember him.
No. I didn't even know what college he went to, and I know everything about colleges. I don't even know this guy is Steve Slayton.
You don't remember Steve
This
Slayton.
Isn't a real guy. It's a guy from a movie you saw or something. It's not real.
This is hilarious. But this is part of what I mean. This day is hilarious. We're going to find out. Like, okay, the Lions are playing the Chiefs
tonight. And the spread's 4.5.
Everybody's talking about the Lions are up and coming. We could see the Chiefs completely destroy the Lions, and then everybody's rearranging what they think. And then,
I think the Chiefs will win tonight. Yes,
I think the Chiefs will win tonight. But I'm hoping that the Lions look good. It's about time that they would have a good team. But the NFL is really weird. The Lions could get crushed, and then they could come back in the second week and be great. Don't overreact to whatever's happening. Is part of.
Did you hear? They asked Brady, listen, is the NFL scripted? And Brady, without hesitation, he said, listen, do you think if it was scripted, I would agree to losing to Eli Manning twice in the Super Bowl? Do you think I would do something like that? I would not accept that script. He said, so that's the dumbest question of my life. It's not scripted. Eli Manning would not beat me in a Super Bowl game if it was scripted, ever.
That's hilarious. Okay, listen. In 2008, Steve Slayton ran for 1,282 yards and 9 touchdowns.
I never heard of this guy. And if you heard of this guy, let me know. Steve Slayton.
And he caught 50.
Atwater never heard of the guy, unless he went to Alabama.
He caught 50 receptions for 377 yards and a touchdown.
And you drafted this guy in the first round.
He had 1,600 total yards and 10 touchdowns. I mean,
and what happened after that 1 year? He
fumbled. Like
he fumbled. They benched him. And what happened the rest of the year? Did he just?
He ran for 437 yards and three touchdowns.
That was your first round pick.
Yeah, I mean, he did have some good receiving numbers, but
that's funny. That's as good as my Steven Jackson story when I drafted him first in my league, and the second play of the season, he gets hurt.
That was an injury, and Steven
Jackson, my first pick.
Steve Slayton, I mean, I was picking 8th, so it wasn't great, but it was still horrible. Just probably my worst pick ever. So here's my question. Bijan Robinson is coming in. There's so much hype on him.
He's already in the Hall of Fame. The NFL already put him in the Hall of Fame without even touching the ball yet. You hear about that?
What yes. What's your prediction of what will happen with Bijan Robinson? What is the stat line?
What I saw in college, Dan, he was a monster. I mean, this guy is faster and bigger and stronger than everybody in college.
And they're saying they're going to use him like a receiver. So,
when you're in the professional NFL, the guys are a lot bigger and faster. I mean, it's a whole different. It's not the same as college, especially Texas with their cake schedule. I think he'll be good. I don't think he'll be leading the league in rushing yards. I don't think he'll be leading the league in touchdowns, but he'll be battling for a top 5 running back spot during the season. He'll be in there. This guy's a stud. I mean, and Atlanta has a good offensive line. I like Atlanta's offensive line. These guys are good and strong and big, and they can move people around. So, but Tyler Algiers, their other running back, he had a good season last year too. He had a bunch of 100-yard games. So their running game is really going to work in Atlanta. They have 2 good.
And I think they're going to use them both.
They have to. I mean, it's a different game now. You don't use your running back all 3 downs now. You can't. You got to rest them. You got to, you got to bring in fresh bodies once in a while. So you got to have 2 good running backs, and they do. They have 2 good running backs, and they have Cornell Peterson too, who's like a slot guy now. They have a whole new position.
I love your pronunciation. Let me translate. Cordarrelle Patterson. Actually, I think it's Cordero, but Cornel.
Good enough.
Let's call him Cornel Peterson.
I mean, no one drafted him, but I was just reading, I think today, about the Atlanta made a position for him that's never been done. So I'm curious. I have to watch that now.
And how old is he now? 63.
66.
Yes, that's what I thought. Okay. Chris Atwater says, everybody loves Gibbs, and so do I. But what are the realistic expectations for him? Your opinion. I'll let you start off, Ross.
So Gibbs is playing tonight. Detroit. They drafted him. Of course, he went to Alabama. Duh. He can catch the ball. I mean, he'll have like 5 or 6 receptions a night for about 50 yards at least. I mean, this guy can do more damage catching the ball than rushing. But I see this guy being a big weapon tonight. I mean, I see him scoring a touchdown. I see him catching, being used as a receiver. I like Gibbs a lot. I think Montgomery's going to have a touchdown. This is going to be a high-scoring game. It's going to be a fun game to watch tonight. But Gibbs is the real deal. This guy can do everything. So that's another team that has 2 running backs, which is great.
Do you think Gibbs can crack, let's say, the top 10 in running backs this season? Does that seem likely to you?
In rushing or total yards?
Total yards. Total.
Yes, total yards. Yes, but not rushing.
Not in rushing.
But receiving and in rushing, receiving and rushing. Yes.
So let's say in just the standard league, not PPR, where he'd get extra from all those catches. Do you still think he finishes top 10 in overall fantasy points?
Overall fantasy points top 10. I think he's an 8 or 9 guy. Yeah,
I agree. I think
he can do that. And he's not related to the Bee Gees, right? He's not one of the Bee Gees brothers.
He's not related to Joe Gibbs either.
Or Joe Gibbs, the coach for the I'm going to say Redskins, because they were called the Redskins.
Well, they were called back then. So your grandfather.
I can use that word.
No, he is not related to the brothers.
Barry Gibb, all those guys. Okay, good.
But I really do think he's going to be quite good. The question, I remember when Adrian Peterson came in the league, and everybody was like, "Well, where do you draft him? He's a rookie." To me, that's changed. Now people don't worry about whether it's a rookie running back. Like if they're that good, You just plug them right in.
Rookie running backs have a whole history of being great. I mean, there's a whole laundry list of running backs that had great first years. It's, but when it comes to tight end, there's no big laundry list of great tight ends as rookies.
Never happens. And really wide receivers almost always start off slow. I don't remember any rookie wide receiver coming in doing
I'm sure there were some exceptions. I'm sure we're not thinking. I'm sure that
bring them up. Call us out.
I can't do it now, but I'll do it next. If people want to bring it up,
I want other people to call us out. Okay, so Chris Atwater says Steve Slayton went to West Virginia, and he was awesome, but not a first-round pick. Now, this is going to make us laugh for years. You have to remember, Ross, this was only the third season I ever played fantasy football. I still didn't know what I was doing. And clearly,
there's probably no internet too. You probably had those magazines. You were like going through the magazines and reading.
Going through magazines.
The magazines were printed like 6 months before. Like there's no like updated magazines. Reading old stuff. I have no idea what you were doing.
There was.
I love that, Steve Slate. That's a great story. I love it.
I'm just gonna put it all out.
It's not a trigger though. It's not as good as the other guy, but it's close.
No, I mean it's not only not a trigger. I actually enjoy it. Okay, Chris Atwater then said, can't get on board with Bijan, so I'm probably wrong. Now, Chris, I want to hear why. And then he says, position for Patterson is listed as Joker. Love it. Is that actually the position that they gave?
I'm telling you, it's a weird position they made for this guy. It's not like a running back receiver. It's a whole. You got to watch it. I mean, I have no idea what it is. I wish I could. I'm going to look it up
in a second. George Cook says half PPR, start Pacheco or Drake London.
Now tonight, Pacheco's going to have. I think he's going to have over like 60, 70 yards at least, and he'll catch the ball. He's going to catch the ball tonight too. This guy can catch.
He's also extremely fast.
He went to Rutgers, so this guy's a tough SOB. So I think Pacheco is going to have a big game. I'd rather start Pacheco. I'm worried about the passing game in Atlanta. I think they'll feature Bijan Robinson a lot more than their passing game because Atlanta is playing, could be the worst. Well, one of the worst teams is Carolina. Did you know this stat that first round picks, like quarterbacks, when they're picking the first pick, they're like 1-13. Like that's their all-time record is like 1-13 is their first game record when these guys start.
Wow.
I mean that's and Carolina to me is not a good team. So I feel Atlanta's going to have a field day with them on Sunday.
Now wait, 1-13. That's how many players are we talking about? And how, because that's not.
I don't know. I just again,
it's a terrible record.
Ross the boss. It's just like when a player gets picked first in the draft and they start the season, the first game as quarterback, that position they're 1-13 in games in opening day. Okay,
that's not a
that's
good.
Not good. So what does that tell you? Bet Atlanta.
It's a learning curve.
But yes, so Pacheco, I would start Pacheco, especially playing Thursday night. Of course, yes.
Yeah, I mean, I could go either way on this, honestly. I actually would probably lean Drake London myself.
USC, okay.
And here's why, because, you know his role in the offense.
Number one receiver.
It's a little hard to know what's going to happen, and it's very hard coming in the first game of the season when you're not sure how game script will go. You're not sure how coaches are going to use things. Drake London's going to get used. I would actually lean towards Drake London, but you're not making a mistake to start Pacheco either. I think you can go either way.
Atlanta was the worst passing team last year, because what's his name? Moretti, the guy from Oregon, the starting quarterback, was just horrible. And now he's the backup for the Eagles. Mariota, excuse me.
Oh, I was like, who are you talking about?
I know.
Sometimes Ross's pronunciation.
So Mariota was horrible last year for Atlanta. They upgraded a little bit.
I thought you were talking about their coach or something. I was like,
no. But overall, I don't really trust Atlanta's passing game quite yet, but I will. Don't worry.
Yeah. Again, for me, it's just about the fact that the players are fairly similar values in this game, and the role is a little clearer.
There you go. Yeah.
Okay. Chris Atwater says, I'm not joking about the J position for Patterson. I believe it, and I'm going to look it up in a second. But first,
no, I told you guys that I'm telling you,
well, he's just saying the name. All right. Smokey says PPR 12-team flex, Marquise Brown or Michael Thomas. Oh. Wow. Oh, that's a tough call.
So Arizona announced that the mighty
Josh Dobbs,
I believe Penn State. that where he went? Or,
that sounds familiar. It's too bad Casey's not here because he's a Penn
well,
State
whatever.
guy.
It doesn't matter. He went to college.
I'll
But this
look
guy's been bouncing around. He played all over, played for a lot of teams. Pittsburgh, Cleveland. I mean, he has probably his ashtrays for 20 hotels he stayed at when he was playing for these teams.
Played
But
at the University of Tennessee.
He played Tennessee. Okay, so Dobbs is their starter. He's been there for a week to learn the playbook, and he's the quarterback. So what does that tell you?
I mean, I'll tell you what it tells me is that the Browns just cast him off. He's going to have a great game.
So
Anything
Arizona,
the Browns do.
Arizona to me is the worst team in the NFL. They're tanking to just get the first pick next season.
I still would play Marquise Brown.
Michael Thomas, as I mentioned, was the first pick of fantasy football 4 years ago, but he hasn't played in like 2 years.
And he's injury prone. He could get injured.
Yeah.
The first
so
snap.
I would probably start Hollywood Brown. That's who I would start.
I'm the same. And listen, they may be a bad team, but there's still going to be volume.
Yeah, I mean, he's an NFL quarterback. He can throw the ball. So Marquis and Arizona's going to be down points, so they'll be throwing the ball a lot.
All right, we're both in on Hollywood Brown for that one.
Yeah, we'll do Hollywood Brown. Why not?
Michael Thomas hasn't shown me enough to
let him play a week. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, at least that. Okay, Ricky B says I'm starting McKinnon over Javonte because of his injury. Russ, your comment.
I like McKinnon. I think he'll have a good night tonight. They use him as a receiver more than anything. Javonte, he's been hurt, so they say it's going to be a shared backfield. But they are playing a horrible team in the Raiders who have no defense.
Javonte is the kind of player that this is what I meant when I said, like I could be totally wrong about people. Javonte, I have him on none of my teams. He's been too injury prone. I'm out on him. And I could see him completely exploding because I got it wrong.
I mean, just because they're playing the Raiders, that's the only reason I would play him. And he is playing, and he'll get at least half the handoff, at least half.
Ross, what do you know about his injury at this point?
Supposedly, they're bringing him back way too early. His injury is supposed to take like a year to get to be. He's coming back 4 months earlier.
What was it? An ACL tear?
ACL, some type of tear. But,
it was ACL,
but you know what?
LCL, and PCL. Yeah.
I think McKinnon's going to score a touchdown tonight. I think the Chiefs are going to score a lot of points. I don't see Kelsey playing that much. McKinnon could be used a lot more tonight. So, yes, start McKinnon. There you go.
I predict Chiefs win by 10.
Good
Okay.
one.
Chris Atwater says, Eagles on the road against solid coach/defense. In my opinion, defense usually gets faster than offense. Hurts has never faced Belichick, and they are honoring Brady at halftime. Upset.
Upset. Mac Jones.
We know.
No, it's not an upset. Philadelphia is going to crush this team. Hurts is going to run all over the field. And the Patriots don't have anything to counter it with. They don't have some deep receiver hidden away anywhere. They don't have any receiving core. They got Zeke Elliott as their other running back with Steven. I mean, they don't have anything to deal with the Eagles. Eagles I think they're the best roster in the NFL. I think from position to position.
I agree. They're my pick. They're my pick to win the Super Bowl.
I can't argue. I mean, they are stacked at every position with defense and offense and the running game and the receiver. Look at the receivers.
I also think
Jalen
Hurts is going to be even better this year because he knows he can do it.
I say Hurts has 2 rushing touchdowns and at least 2 passing touchdowns. So what's that? 28 points right there.
I think the story out of this game is going to be: is Belichick past his?
I can give you the headline right now. Do you want the headline?
Yeah.
Belichick begs Brady to come in during the second half to play in games.
They're going to start talking. They're going to start talking about Belichick being on the hot seat. But I'll tell you what: if I was Patriots ownership, I would never fire Belichick. He could stay there as long as he wanted.
He's getting old.
I don't care.
By.
I don't care if you have that much of a.
I don't know how long the owner of I don't know how long Kraft can go on if he keeps losing. This guy likes to win, so I'm just throwing it out there.
Yep. Well, we'll see, and then maybe who knows? Then Belichick goes somewhere else, and we get to see. Well, how does the legend fare, or will he retire? We'll get back to that in a second. But Smokey says, "Thanks, y'all, appreciate it." Also have Pacheco from the Chiefs on the bench. I could throw in. This was the question.
Start him.
Well, no, this was the question about Hollywood Brown versus Michael Thomas. So now we're talking about Hollywood Brown, Michael Thomas, or Pacheco. I would still start Hollywood Brown myself.
I would start Pacheco. I think he's going to at least have one touchdown, at least 70, 80 yards, and he'll have some receive. He'll have 100 yards total and a touchdown. There you go.
Interesting. All right. Well, there's another opinion. Michael Brantley says, hey, guys, need some help. Full PPR flex position, Alexander Madison or Mike Williams. Full PPR.
So full PPR, I mean, Madison catches the ball, he rushes. I don't know how much they'll use the other running backs they scooped up during the draft.
I'm Madison all the way on that. I like Mike Williams, but
I like Mike Williams, but he is the second receiver in LA for the Chargers. Even though he went to Clemson, I do like him. I think he's really talented, but I would start Madison just because they're playing. I believe that Minnesota's playing at home. And they're playing like an easy team, right? They're playing. Who's Minnesota playing?
Let me.
I know the Chargers are playing Miami, and their defense is pretty. They have some pretty good DBs. Who is Minnesota playing at home?
Minnesota is playing the Buccaneers.
Oh, they're playing Buccaneers. So I knew, and Buccaneers are not the Buccaneers when they win the Super Bowl. It's not the same team. So.
Definitely not.
So I would start, even though I'm not a big Madison fan. I don't think he has any breakaway speed. I think he's slow and fat. I still
Madison's
think
Madison's volume plus the fact
volume alone, exactly.
I go with him, but Michael Brantley does have a follow up. If Mike Williams, would you start Madison over Ramondre Stevenson? That's tough actually for me.
Yeah,
in a full PPR.
I mean, Belichick always finds a way to mess me up with fantasy. He loves messing with people. He's the worst, and I won't draft. Again, another team I won't draft is the Patriots because of him.
I hate Patriots players.
Because of him.
Never predicted.
No,
remember when Mike Shanahan was called Lucifer? Do you remember that nickname?
No.
They would call Mike Shanahan Lucifer in the fantasy community because he would just torture everybody with his usage. And Bill Belichick is just like that.
I
would start Madison over both.
I like Stevenson, but I feel they'll be behind in the game, and they're not going to be running the ball that much. So, there you go.
Chris Atwater says, said it before, we'll say it again. Michael Thomas is a professional check casher. No faith in him long term. Still love my Saints, though.
Agreed.
We agree with you.
Nothing to talk about.
Oh, Chris Atwater says, I'm taking the Patriots in our survivor pool. Ooh.
Remember, our survivor pool, you get if you lose this week, you have another, you get one more chance. So
I have a very comfortable pick this week.
Who's your pick?
I'm taking Baltimore. I mean, Baltimore's not going to lose.
You know what I'm taking? And it's an away game, but I just think they're going to crush them. I already said it. I'm taking Jacksonville.
Ooh, I try to stay away from away games if I can.
I think the Colts are so bad, Dan. And I like Richardson. I think he's a nice kid. But he just played in a handful of games in college. This guy has no
look, the Jaguars
clue what he's doing out there. Seriously,
they should easily win that game, but you never know. You never know.
Calvin Ridley's gonna have 2 touchdowns. There you
go. Who is Baltimore playing? Why do I not even remember?
Baltimore is at home, and they are playing. Who are they playing? They're at home, and they have actually a tough game. They're at home.
I'm looking at the schedule now, and for some reason, they're not showing the Baltimore game. I'll have to look at that.
I'm sure that's not true.
I'll look into that in a second. But we've got Cow Chad TTV says, I just dropped 1,000 on the Cards going up against the Commanders. I'm pretty much on a ledge with my first bold prediction of the year. Wow.
So you took the Cards, you got the points. I'm sure it was a money line. Hopefully you got the points.
Then he says, I just think Connor runs all over that bad run D and Commanders can't score enough. So Cards win cover and hit the under easy.
Can you call the bookie back and tell him that you don't want to make the bet? I mean, the Commanders were just bought. They have a whole new ownership now. They're really motivated to win. So I hope you win. I don't want you to lose $1,000. I hope you win.
We hope so. Okay, it's Houston versus Baltimore.
So
I'm very comfortable.
CJ Stroud.
I'm very comfortable with the Ravens against a rookie quarterback.
Yeah, I like that.
I mean, and they're at home as well. It just seemed like the safest pick to me.
I like that.
Okay, Dem7 says 2 flex 10-man league. Burrow.
Okay, 2 flex. Okay, Burrow start. Chubb start.
Chubb, Madison, CD.
Start. St. Brown.
St. Brown.
Did you hear what St. Brown said in the press conference? He said,
what did he say?
"Oh, I was the number 11 receiver last year, so I'm really good and whatever." If you're number 11, I wouldn't be advertising. I was the number 11
really
NFL
number
receiver.
11.
I know, it's like,
I mean, he would be better off saying, "Listen, I was just getting started."
Yeah, I mean, you don't say you're number 11.
Year.
You're a loser if you're number 11.
You got to at least crack the top 10 to be bragging about.
No, I mean, he's like bragging he was number 11. It's like an
all right.
idiot.
Let's
okay, Andrews, who I think is going to be the number 1 tight end this week. James Cook, who I love. As you know, I've been ranting and raving about him. I love Flowers. I love Mostert is their starting running back. You have a really good team.
Very good. I mean, keep in mind it is a 10-team league, but that's a great team.
So
he's asking James Cook or Mostert versus the Clippers, and also Jahan Dotson over Zay.
So I'm a Zay Flowers guy. I think this guy's the real deal.
I think he's going to be great this year. I just don't think he's going to be good.
I love him starting opening day. I'm excited. I think he'll score for Lamar Jackson. I think Lamar Jackson's going to be throwing the ball to prove all these doubters.
I think he's going to score in this week 1, and then it's going to be a drought for.
I love Zay Flowers,
and then he's going to be good.
I'm prejudiced on that one, but Zay Flowers. Do I play James Cook?
But would you play Zay Flowers over Jahan Dotson? I wouldn't.
I would. That's me.
Wow.
James Cook. Yes, start James Cook on Monday night.
Definitely Cook over Mostert.
Mostert, his legs are made out of paper mache. He gets hurt every year, so I can just see him on the sidelines in the second quarter.
He also just doesn't have as clear of a role. James Cook has a really good role.
Yeah, it's called play every down.
Yes, I like that. I like that role.
I like it a lot.
I like it. I like it a lot. RIK says Daniel Jones against Cowboys tough defense or Jared Goof, or it might have been Goff. It might have just been a typo. Tonight versus the Chiefs without Chris Jones.
Mrs. Jones, Chris Jones, their all-pro tackle, defensive tackle, is not playing tonight. He can't come up. They can't come up with his contract, so he's sitting out, which is a huge loss for the Chiefs, as we all know. Jared Goff, University of California grad. I think he's going to have a big game. I think it's going to be a shootout. I think the Chiefs will win, but I think Goff will have over 250 yards and 2 touchdowns. So, yes, I would start Goff on Thursday night over Daniel Jones because the Cowboys, for some reason, they always beat the Giants. I don't know why. It's just a hex.
They're going to beat the Giants, but the question is Daniel Jones going to have room to score points?
I mean, his receivers? Is Darius Slayton is a number 1 receiver? I mean, that's who they're going with.
It's a really not an ideal receiving core. But here's the thing: Daniel Jones runs. So this is close, but I actually still lean Jared.
They have a few defensive players on.
I still lean Jared Goff, but I actually don't think either are a terrible play.
Goff had a great year last year. I go Goff Thursday night, opening night against Kansas City. People are going to be pumped. It's going to be a lot of scoring. It's going to be fun.
I hope Goff continues to go off this season and just proves that he can really have staying power.
I think it's a good story. Yep.
Okay, RIK says also Sky Moore or wait to see if Christian Watson plays. We'll have to start A.J. Dillon if Watson sits out.
Okay, so that's a tough one.
Really, yeah. What do you think?
I think Sky Moore, the bookies have him like 42 yards receiving over under. I think Sky Moore is going to have a big game tonight. I just have a feeling. I don't know why. I think he's going to be used as the number 1 receiver in Kansas City. I think he'll have. I think this guy's going to have like 70, 80 yards at least receiving. And I see him catching a touchdown. So I would start Sky Moore just because I think he'll be in there at least 80% of the snaps. He'll be in there a lot.
And this is that's a totally reasonable stance. I'm going to go the other way with it. I think Christian has the biggest upside, and A.J. Dillon is not much of a downgrade over Sky Moore necessarily. So I would take the chance.
I think A.J. Dillon, I agree. I think A.J. Dillon, people always, he's the second back. He gets a lot of handoffs. I mean, this guy gets used a lot.
To me, this question is Sky Moore so much better than A.J. Dillon? And is Christian Watson worth waiting for? To me, he's worth waiting for, and A.J. Dillon's close enough to Sky Moore that I would wait.
Listen, I'm just saying because Kelsey's not playing. Kelsey's playing, but not that much. Like you say, decoy. So somebody's going to have to catch these passes. And I say Sky Moore gets like 3 or 4.
I'm not saying it. I'm not saying it predictively. Like I'm not saying I think that's what's going to happen. I'm just saying I would rather wait for Christian Watson. I think it's close. Chris Atwater says Commanders will be a popular survivor pick this week.
Big time.
I agree. And guess what? I think they're going to lose. This is the kind of storyline that you see all the time.
You know what? Magic Johnson, he's a part owner now of the Commanders. Mm-hmm. He is just a lucky-go-lucky guy. Wherever he touches, he touched the Dodgers. They won. The Starbucks, the movies, the movie theaters in Inglewood. I mean, everything this guy touches turns to gold. Well, it did well before COVID, but
All right.
it's the Starbucks did all his investments do great. Okay, this guy's just,
I mean,
he's
it's a great
winner.
it's a
It's
great
the greatest
survivor pick,
smile in
and
the world.
they're playing the Cardinals. I mean, it's a pretty good
so
pick.
I'm just the Magic Johnson effect is in effect in DC that weekend. They're all going to be there. All the new owners. Rivera's going to be fighting. If Rivera loses, he's gone. I mean, they're not going to wait around for Rivera to open.
No,
Opening your new
he's totally on
stadium
the hot
too.
seat.
But did you see what they did too in DC? You know, they were complaining about the stadium. You know, it's all run down, the bathrooms. So they put $40 million into the stadium. 35 million of it went to the suites. So all the rich people have like better bathrooms, better, everything's better for the rich people. And they put like 5 million into like the public restrooms. They just put fresh paint up there. Who knows what they did? Oh, but it's just like, it's the regular people that want changes, not the rich people,
they're not even really going to notice.
Yeah.
Chris Atwater says, I'm Chris Jones. Don't act like you don't know my name.
Chris Jones. There's a rapper named Chris Jones too. So
this just made me think I'm Rick James is that's where I went to.
Well, again, Chris Jones is not playing tonight. It's a huge loss for Kansas City.
Big loss. Okay, let's finish up on these. Cameron B says, would you guys flex Zay Flowers or Elijah Mitchell in week 1? Full PPR format, if that helps any. For me, that's Zay Flowers all the way. What do you think?
I think, I don't trust the coach for San Francisco either, Shanahan. I don't know if
he's the son of Lucifer.
I don't think he'll get. I don't think he'll use every other running back except Elijah Mitchell. Who knows what this guy's going to do?
McCaffrey's out there anyway. Like, I'd rather have a bigger piece of the offense. I'd go Zay Flowers.
Lamar Jackson's been ranting and raving how great Zay Flowers is in practice. I mean, that's all he talks about. And obviously they have a connection. I mean, Bateman is a failure. I mean, Odell Beckham can't stay healthy. He's not the same guy he was 5 years ago. Sorry, KC Scheinfeld, but he's not. And again, I just think Zay Flowers is the number 1 receiver, the rookie from Boston College, and I would start Zay Flowers in every league.
By the way, it looks like the question was different, though. It actually is not Elijah Mitchell. He meant Elijah Moore. I still would start Zay Flowers.
Yeah, Elijah Moore plays for the Bears, right?
No, that's the Browns.
Elijah Moore, okay, right. That's
I don't.
So
I don't trust the Browns at all.
No, Watson looked horrible last year. No one talks about it. I mean, he was horrible. His stats were horrible. He was horrible. He lost games by a big margin. But I don't trust Watson at all until I see him prove it against the Bengals on Sunday. We'll see what happens.
All right. Chris Atwater says a chain of the Dolphins. Think he plays and does well. Another youngster. I like him this season. He's one of those guys. He's a lottery pick. If Mostert goes down or something like that, I think he's going to be big. He's very fast.
He looked great in preseason, but again, he's playing against second team, third team guys.
Right, but listen, if you can get a share of him, I would. He reminds me a little bit of Chris Johnson when he first came out in that first season.
Big statement. Yeah, big statement. Chris Johnson. Wow.
I'm not saying he's going to perform like Chris Johnson or have a career like Chris Johnson. I'm just saying it reminds me of a similar type of setup, and it could go that way. Kyle Sims says, would you guys trade Jefferson, Aaron Jones, and Khalil Herbert for Pollard and Devontae Adams? No, I would not.
Hold on. Would I trade? So I have Jefferson, Jones, and Herbert for Pollard, who I top 5 running back for sure this year if he doesn't get hurt, and Devontae Adams, who's on the downfall.
I say no, but what do you say?
I'm tempted to do that deal. I like Pollard that much. I think Pollard is better than Jones and Herbert combined. I think he'll have better numbers. And Devontae, I'm not a big Jefferson guy. He's like everybody's saying he's the first pick in the draft. Adams
in PPR drafts.
Yeah, PPR drafts. I don't know. I don't know who you're.
It's a tough call. I like Aaron Jones a lot more this year than some other people do. So I would say no.
I like Aaron Jones. I'm not saying I don't.
It's a fair deal. I just wouldn't take it.
If Pollard stays healthy, I like Pollard and Adams. Yes, I would keep Pollard. I would want Pollard on my team.
All right. Now, Chris Atwater says in terms of who he was talking about, Chris Jones, he was talking about Mike Jones.
Mike Jones.
And then he said, or maybe the rapper Mac Jones. He loves Mac Jones. I hope Mac Jones works out. I hope
Mac Jones gets run. I hope somebody knocks him out on Sunday.
You don't like Mac Jones. Have
you seen the cheap shots this guy does on
it's not
defensive
that I like
players?
Mac Jones. It's that I like Chris Atwater. Okay.
We all love Chris Atwood. Nothing to do with Chris. It's nothing personal. It's
I
just
know.
my
Okay,
opinion.
now I have to try to pronounce his name. It's Bwap. I like it. Superflex. Josh Allen is the other QB. Should I trade Mahomes for Devontae Adams or Devontae Smith, Najee, and Derek Carr?
So Josh Allen is the other QB. Should I trade Mahomes? You have Mahomes.
You have Mahomes. You want to trade him for Josh Allen and Devontae Adams or Devontae Smith? If that's the case,
And Derek Carr.
I would say yes. I know some people are not as high on Josh Allen this year. They think he's going to slide back a little bit, but if you can
Still
get Devontae Adams or Devontae Smith for him, yes.
Yeah, it sounds to me you're probably, if you made those picks, if you have Allen and Mahomes, you're probably pretty light on receiver, I would guess.
Okay.
So you're getting Adams and Smith as receivers. I'm not a big Najee Harris guy. I don't think he'll be starting in week 10. I think it's going to be Warren. Yeah.
Well, I hope you're right about that.
And Derek Carr, as much as I say he's on the decline, I still think he's going to have pretty good numbers this year.
All right. We already said that. Kyle Sims says, tough call. And this is getting back to Jefferson, Aaron Jones, and Khalil Herbert for Pollard and Devontae Adams. He says, tough call. My other reviewers are Wilson and Amon-Ra.
Receivers are Wilson from the Jets and Brown.
I mean, those are great receivers. So you're loaded at receiver. Yeah. I would stay with it. Ross says go for it. So unfortunately, we're split in this. You can't go wrong either way, though. I mean, it's a pretty fair deal. So
the funny thing is, Dan,
I would say go with your gut.
There's going to be injuries week 1. Some people's teams are going to just be devastated by next week. So whatever I say doesn't really matter right now.
And then there's always teams that drafted Steve Slayton in the first round. So you're going to be fine. You're going to be fine. All right. Kenton Paris says James Cook and Khalil for Kenneth Walker or Dameon Pierce. Yeah. So you're dealing James Cook and Khalil, and you're getting either Kenneth Walker or Dameon Pierce.
I'd rather have James Cook.
I'd rather have James Cook.
You're talking about a guy that's going to get the ball every down in short yardage. Kenneth Walker has to worry about the rookie from UCLA. And Dameon
Pierce is playing for the Texans.
Is playing for the Texans, who are going to be forced to throw the ball because they'll be down a lot of points. I think it's at
least close in value, and so but I think Cook has far more upside than the others.
And Khalil for the Bears. I mean, the Bears are a running team. I mean, you're not going to see Fields throw the ball that much this season. So,
and as soon as there's an injury there, he's going to have a bigger part, as long as it's not to him. Yep. Coda Bear says full PPR rate and pick two flex. Allen, C-Mac, Diggs, Pitts, Mixon, Ayuk, Dameon Pierce, Amari Cooper, Hollywood, Judy, and Kincaid. Okay, we got to pick 2 flex from this. So I assume we're not talking about quarterback. So Allen's the quarterback.
Or CMC or Diggs or Pitts or Nixon. Okay, so
now you're going to start them. So now you're talking 2 flex between essentially Ayuk, Dameon Pierce, Amari Cooper, Hollywood, Judy, and Kincaid. I'm going to go with Pierce. And I think Ayuk, maybe Amari Cooper. What do you think?
I like Ayuk and I like Amari Cooper. They're both number 1 receivers, and they're both expecting to have pretty good years this year. I'm worried about Pierce, and I'm worried about
in PPR or just in general.
Overall, and Judy's not playing for at least the first 2 weeks, and Kincaid, I got to see him play.
Yep. Okay. Now, I see. He was saying he already has Allen. He's got Allen and Mahomes.
Right.
Whoa. Okay. So now we got to go back to this. You've got Allen and Mahomes, so you can just play Allen, and you're trading Mahomes for.
So it's not a super flex league. It is super flex.
It is super flex.
It's the first. Okay.
So the question is, who's your third QB then? I see.
Well, he'll get Derek Carr. So he'll start Carr and Allen, and then he's going to start Devontae and Devontae and also Smith.
I still wouldn't do it. I don't think yet. I'd rather have those 2
I don't know.
QBs.
Who are your other? What receivers do you have?
He didn't say. That was a different team.
I mean,
it depends on your receiver.
If it's a huge upgrade, it's
a huge upgrade if you think about it.
I mean, if your receivers are like Van Jefferson and 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 some other, maybe like Lockett or something. Yeah, I would want Adams and Smith.
It all depends on your team context. But you're going to be able to get a ton from
But
Mahomes.
having Allen and Mahomes in the Superflex league, that's a huge.
I would probably go
advantage.
I would probably go for.
Probably would keep those two at least the first couple weeks.
I agree. I would look for some other way to upgrade,
because there's going to be some receivers that you can get on waiver wire, especially week 1, that are going to be like, oh my, this guy's the number 1 receiver for let's say the Texans. You don't know what's going to happen. So I would wait. The quarterbacks are not going to change.
Yeah. All right. Hold on. Kenson Paris said, my team listed above. If you have any trade ideas, it got skipped. And I'm looking back and I don't see that. So if you can put it in again, Kenson, I'm just not seeing it on the list for some reason.
Yeah.
Scrolled up to the top. I don't see it. So we'll come back to you, but put it in if you want. Okay. Chris Atwater says, Najee not starting by week 10. Crazy talk. I don't have him, but that is bold. Now, of course, Chris Atwater is a big Alabama guy.
But you got to make bold predictions. You got to like, if you want to win fantasy football in general, if you want to win, not come in second or third or whatever, you got to make bold predictions and go against the grain. You're not going to win your league just going by the book. It doesn't work. And especially going from last year's stats, so it doesn't work. So you gotta take chances with certain players.
Take some chances. You gotta take some chances. Yeah. Just don't do it in the first 3 rounds of your draft.
That's
all right, Ross. We got to wrap up for today. Kenson Paris. I don't see that on. It looks like it didn't go through for some reason. So you can always put it in the comments and we'll answer it there.
Yep.
And we are going to be back here Thursdays every week. 4:30 p.m. Eastern, 1:30 p.m. Pacific. Casey Scheinvold should be back with us. And Ross, you and Casey go on Tuesdays, 4 p.m. and 1 p.m.
Tuesdays at 4 p.m.
And that's the waiver wire.
Pacific. We'll do waiver wire and also like predictions for the following week. Like we'll talk about like what players we have a good feeling about will do well the following week. You know what I mean?
Right. And so you're relying on waiver wire on Tuesday.
Waiver wire we'll talk because
here we're talking more trades and strategy, but we'll talk about anything.
But exactly. But we'll talk waiver wire just because you have to have your waiver wire in by Tuesday night in most leagues.
All right, Ross, thank you for joining me. Thanks everybody for joining us. We'll see you same time next week. Let's go. It's football time. Are you ready for some football?